That means now that we're going to switch to football as Cardinal beat writer from Go PHNX, Howard Balzer, joins us. Howard, it's Jimmy B and Manuch along with Jax. Welcome as always, pal. What do you make of the Kyler Murray back at practice and also Budda Baker back at practice?
Yeah, I was expecting it to be this week with Kyler, or at least next week at the latest. I recall predicting back in the summer that the likely return, at least to practice, would be right around after week 6. I do remember when people kind of laughed at me and Dr. David Chow in the off season when I was saying, hey, this is going to be an injury and a rehab. It's going to take him out in terms of playing until around halfway through the season. And people said, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Well, not so much. But, bottom line, he's back. And he was the one, according to Jonathan Gannon, that made the decision. Gannon said he went up to him yesterday and said, I'm practicing today. And Gannon said, great, see you out there. And so now we'll just, he hasn't been doing of course, we only see, guys, I should make this clear. We only see, in terms of the media, the first 20 minutes of practice, which includes stretching and some individual drills. And so he's been out there, obviously, for that. He's been throwing the ball virtually all on the drills to the practice squad receivers, while with Jeff Driscoll, who's on the practice squad, while Clayton Tune, of course, and Joshua Dobbs are throwing to the main receivers. But, he looks good throwing. He's, nimble on his feet. He's got that good quickness in his drop that he's always had. And, everyone's now speculating, when's he going to play? I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be, I would doubt it. It's certainly not going to be this week. I would doubt it'll be next week. Maybe the Browns on November 5th on the road. But I think what it's pointing to probably is a home game against the Falcons on November 12th, where he will start in that game. So that's what it's looking like. Budda Baker back on the field. He acknowledged today, guys, that it was a pretty serious hamstring injury. It was an upper hamstring injury, which is considered the proximal part of the hamstring. And he said that they said to him that can be a 6 to 8 week recovery period. And he said, well, when I hear 6 weeks, I just said, okay, you can say what you want, but we're going to go after this day by day. Well, Friday will be 5 weeks from the time that he pulled his hamstring in practice. So not sure it's going to be this week that he's going to play. It's possible that it could be. You certainly don't want to get it out there too soon and go in full speed, but I'd be surprised if he's not out there at the latest by the game a week from Sunday against the Ravens.
Howard, I'd be curious to when you talk to the staff, what's going to be the determining factor, whether Kyler Murray is ready or not? What will they put him through? What kind of paces, what kind of game-like scenarios they put him through to make sure that he's completely ready, or are they going to leave that up to him?
Well, it's a combination. I think when he feels mentally that, yeah, I can go out there and play, I think obviously he's been medically cleared. That's what I inferred that from what Gannon said yesterday, that Kyler said, I'm practicing today. That sounds to me like medically they've said, hey, you're ready to go when you decide that you feel right doing that. So certainly him feeling good enough to go out there, feeling comfortable with the offense. I mean, they're in a tough situation now. I've been saying this for weeks, because you've got to get Joshua Dobbs ready to play in the game. And so how do you get some snaps for him in practice, running the offense, doing all those things when you're getting not only your starting quarterback ready, but you're getting your backup ready too, in the event something would happen to Joshua Dobbs, with Clayton Tune perhaps having to go into the game. So that's going to be the challenge over these next few weeks. You certainly can't duplicate a game in practice, and it's going to have to be essentially on both sides, I think, guys, a leap of faith when they say, okay, it's ready to go out there and let it rip and just see what happens in a real game. But in my mind, the earlier the better, when he feels good about it and everyone feels good about it, because there's going to be a certain amount of rust. There's going to be a certain amount of getting accustomed again to game situations. And to me, you want to get that rust out and get that rust off as soon as you can. And so that's why it wouldn't surprise me to see him play against the Browns, although that's a really difficult defense. The game's on the road. That's why it seems to make the most sense for that Falcons game. And, there'll still be at that point 8 games left in the season, which is basically half the year. So
Right.
he'll have plenty of time to get out there and show what he's capable of doing within this offense.
Howard Balzer is our guest. He's on the right Toyota guest line. Howard, take me then to the upcoming game in Seattle. Look, they were using James Conner, the running back, as their main offensive weapon. He is not in the lineup, of course, out with the injury. What do you expect out of the Cardinals, and what is their chances of winning in Seattle?
It's a tough challenge. I mean, once again, I think it relies as much on the defense as it does on the offense, because this is a defense that's been shredded by really good receivers in the last few weeks with Brandon Ayuk and then Jamar Chase, and last week with Cooper Kupp. And the second half has just been dismal. And I just think it's a matter of they're just not talented enough on defense, and that the other team just asserts its will in the second half. So for this defense to stop Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and the running back Kenneth Walker, I think is going to be a very big challenge for this team. But they'll probably hang in. A big key will be don't turn it over, which of course has happened the last couple of weeks with Joshua Dobbs. And Joshua Dobbs. We're seeing now, especially in these last 2 weeks, and there were hints of it the previous weeks about why he's been a backup his entire career. The accuracy is very inconsistent.
Yep.
There's been a bunch of plays in a lot of these games that they've lost that if they had just hit him when he overthrew guys or threw behind them or whatever it might be, there's been a bunch of those that if they had connected might have made the outcome a little different. And I'll say this, even last Sunday against the Rams, they had 2 trips to the red zone in the first half and couldn't convert them. And I thought they ran the ball decently in that game, even without James Conner. But, if they had scored touchdowns on those 2 red zone trips, excuse me, and instead of leading 9-6 at the half, are leading, 17 to 6. Do the Rams come out and run the ball the way they did at the beginning of the second half? I don't know if they do or not. And so that's going to be the case. But Joshua Dobbs is what Joshua Dobbs is. And for them to have a chance, he just has to play a whole lot better than he has, especially in these last 2 games.
Thank you, pal. It's always great when we catch up with you on a Thursday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it, guys. Take care.
There you go. Howard Balzer, go PHNX, and he is brought to you by Twin Peaks Fan Pick'em. You can play our weekly Twin Peaks Fan Pick'em. It's all powered by Blue Moon and Coors Light. Just pick the pro games each week. Once again, it's the Twin Peaks Fan Pick'em. All right, everybody, we're going to clean out the locker a little bit. We've got our Learner in Row 1 call. That's all. We're also going to bring you up to speed on what's on tap tonight and the results of today's state. It's your call question of the day. Rockin' Minutes with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910.
Wow!
Clear.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
We don't think there's any such thing as overcompensating. Win $1,000 in inflation compensation. Listen every hour, weekdays from
I'll be right
6
back.
a.m.